The last stand. The blue-skinned Talon warriors crouch behind twisted metal barriers on planet Kresh 7, their breathing heavy and desperate. Captain Cole pressed his back against the wreckage of their crashed transport, purple blood seeping from a gash across his arm. Around him, the last 30 survivors of the 4th Fleet Regiment checked their energy weapons with shaking hands. "Sir, they're moving again," whispered Scout Ben, his large black eyes scanning the ash-covered horizon. The red sky above them burned with the light of 3 dying suns, casting eerie shadows across the battlefield. In the distance, the Vex swarm advanced like a living tide of death. Their insect-like forms clicked and chittered as thousands of razor-sharp legs carried them forward. Each creature stood 8 feet tall with mandibles that could slice through steel and acid that dissolved armor in seconds. They had already consumed 17 worlds in this sector. Cole activated his communication device with trembling fingers. The hologram of Admiral Rix appeared, flickering and distorted. "Admiral, we need immediate evacuation. The Vex have overrun our position. My regiment is down to 30 soldiers." The Admiral's expression was grim. "Cole, I have bad news. The main fleet is engaged 3 systems away. We cannot reach you for another 6 rotations." 6 rotations? Ben's voice cracked. "Sir, we don't have 6 hours, let alone 6 days." The ground began to vibrate as the Vex swarm drew closer. Their alien screeches filled the air, a sound that chilled the blood of every warrior present. "There is one option," Admiral Rix continued slowly. "We've made contact with a species from a distant sector. They claim to have ships in your area and are willing to assist." "What species?" Cole asked, hope flickering in his voice. "They call themselves humans. We know little about them. They're new to this galaxy, relatively primitive technology by our standards. But they're our only option." The Talon warriors exchanged worried glances. Unknown aliens with primitive technology against the most feared predators in the galaxy? It seemed like a death sentence with extra steps. "Have they faced the Vex before?" Cole pressed. "No, Captain. They haven't encountered any of our enemies. They're completely untested in real combat." The Vex were now close enough that individual creatures could be seen clearly. Their black carapaces gleamed with acidic secretions, and their compound eyes reflected the dying light like 1,000 tiny mirrors. "Sir, contact them," Cole decided. "We'll take any help we can get." As the transmission ended, Cole turned to his remaining soldiers. They were young, mostly new recruits who had never seen real combat before this nightmare began. Now they huddled together, weapons pointed at an enemy that had destroyed civilizations far more advanced than their own. "Listen up," Cole shouted over the growing noise of the approaching swarm. "Reinforcements are coming. Unknown species, but they're all we have. We hold this position until they arrive." "How long?" asked Medic Tom, wrapping a bandage around another soldier's leg. Cole checked his scanner. The first wave of Vex would reach them in less than an hour. "We make our stand here, for the Talon Republic, for our families, for everyone counting on us." The warriors raised their weapons, energy cells humming to life. In the distance, the Vex swarm spread across the horizon like spilled ink, their alien hunger driving them forward relentlessly. As the first creatures broke into a run, their claws sparking against the rocky ground, Cole wondered what these humans could possibly do that the mighty Talon fleet could not. Their own ships were marvels of engineering. Their weapons could crack moons. Their shields could withstand starfire. Yet here they were, 30 soldiers against 10,000 monsters, waiting for primitive aliens to save them. The first Vex warrior leaped over a boulder 50 meters away, its mandibles spread wide and dripping with acid. Cole raised his plasma rifle and took aim. "For the Republic," he whispered, and pulled the trigger. The battle for Kresh 7 had begun, and somewhere, in the darkness of space, an unknown force was racing toward them. Whether salvation or merely a delay of the inevitable remained to be seen. But in that moment, as energy bolts lit up the dying sky and the Vex swarm crashed against their desperate defenses, hope was all they had left. First contact. The Talon defensive line was crumbling. Cole rolled behind a chunk of fallen debris as acid splashed where his head had been moments before. 3 more of his soldiers had fallen in the last 10 minutes, their screams still echoing in his mind. "Sir, movement in the upper atmosphere." Scout Ben pointed skyward with his remaining good arm. Through the smoke and chaos, dark shapes descended through Kresh 7's red sky. The vessels were strange, angular and bulky compared to the sleek Talon ships. They moved with purpose but seemed almost crude in design. "Those must be the humans," Cole muttered, watching the alien craft approach. "They don't look like much." The lead human ship was barely half the size of a Talon cruiser, with thick armor plating and weapons that looked primitive compared to their energy-based systems. As it drew closer, Cole could see burn marks and dents across its hull. This ship had seen combat before. A voice crackled through his communicator, speaking in broken Talon language. "Talon forces, this is Commander Jake of the human vessel Defiant. We're here to help. Please mark your positions." "Thank the stars," Ben breathed, firing another shot at an approaching Vex warrior. Cole activated his beacon. "Human vessel, this is Captain Cole. We're surrounded and down to 27 soldiers. The Vex are everywhere." "Understood. We see them. Impressive numbers they've got there." The human commander's voice carried an odd tone. Not fear, but something else. Almost excitement. The human ships spread out in formation above the battlefield. They were slower than Talon vessels, their engines producing visible flame trails instead of clean energy signatures. Everything about them screamed primitive. Technology. "Human commander," Cole called out urgently as another wave of Vex crested a nearby hill. "Our weapons are nearly depleted. Can you provide air support?" "Copy that. All ships, weapons free. Let's show these bugs what humans do to uninvited guests." What happened next defied everything Cole thought he knew about warfare. The human ships didn't fire elegant energy beams or sophisticated plasma bursts. Instead, they unleashed a devastating barrage of solid projectiles, chunks of metal that screamed through the atmosphere at incredible velocity. The primitive kinetic weapons struck the Vex swarm with the force of meteors. Where Talon plasma weapons would carefully target individual enemies, the humans simply obliterated entire sections of landscape. Explosions rocked the ground as their crude missiles found their marks, sending Vex warriors flying through the air in pieces. "By the void," whispered Medic Tom, staring in amazement. "They're not even trying to be precise." The largest human ship moved directly overhead, its belly opening to reveal rows of soldiers in bulky armor. They rappelled down on thick cables, landing hard among the Vex with ground-shaking impacts. The human soldiers were smaller than Talon warriors, but they moved with shocking aggression. Instead of seeking cover and firing from safe positions, they charged directly into the swarm. Their weapons were loud, crude projectile throwers that spat metal death at incredible rates. One human soldier, his armor marked with the name Rick, landed near Cole's position. He carried a massive weapon that required both hands to operate and was making sounds like controlled explosions. "You boys look like you could use some help," Rick shouted over the noise, casually firing into a group of Vex, without bothering to take proper aim. His bullets somehow found their targets anyway. "Your weapons, they're so primitive," Ben said in wonder. Rick laughed, a harsh sound. "Primitive? Kid, we've been killing things with chunks of metal for thousands of years. We're really good at it." More humans dropped from their ships, and each one seemed to have a different approach to violence. Some carried flame-throwing devices that bathed entire areas in fire. Others used explosive devices they threw by hand with casual precision. One soldier was swinging what appeared to be a modified mining tool, crushing Vex warriors with each swing. "They're insane," Tom muttered, watching a human soldier deliberately draw Vex toward him so he could activate some kind of explosive device at close range. The Vex, for the first time since Cole had encountered them, seemed confused. Their swarm tactics were designed to overwhelm precise defensive opponents. They had no response to enemies who met their aggression with even greater violence. Within minutes, the tide of battle had completely reversed. The humans fought like the Vex themselves, with primal fury and no regard for conventional military doctrine. Commander Jake's voice came through the communicator again. Talon Captain, recommend you and your boys find some solid cover. We're about to get creative with the remaining bugs. Cole looked up to see the human ships preparing what appeared to be their largest weapons yet. What exactly are you planning? He asked. Oh, you'll see. Humans always save the best for last. Overwhelming force. The human ships repositioned themselves in a perfect formation above the largest concentration of Vex warriors. Cole and his remaining soldiers crouched behind reinforced barriers, watching in fascination and terror as their unexpected allies prepared for something unprecedented. All Talon forces take cover immediately, Commander Jake's voice boomed through their communicators. We're going to solve this bug problem the human way. What exactly is the human way? Cole asked, genuinely curious despite the chaos around them. Excessive force applied with extreme prejudice. The lead human ship opened massive bay doors along its underside. Instead of deploying more soldiers, it began dropping what looked like metallic canisters the size of ground vehicles. They fell in perfect patterns across the battlefield, landing with heavy thuds that shook the ground. Are those bombs? Scout Ben asked, his voice filled with awe. Better, came Rick's voice from nearby. The human soldier had taken position, next to their defensive line, his massive weapon still chattering as he fired at approaching Vex. Those are cluster munitions. Each one contains about 200 smaller explosives. The Vex swarm, sensing new threats, began converging on the fallen canisters. Their insect intelligence couldn't process what the strange objects represented. Detonation in 5 seconds, Jake announced calmly. The explosions came in waves. First, the canisters themselves erupted, sending secondary charges scattering across the battlefield like deadly seeds. Then those charges detonated in a cascading symphony of destruction that lit up the red sky like a new sun. The sound was indescribable, a continuous roar that seemed to shake the planet itself. When the light faded and the smoke began to clear, vast sections of the battlefield had been transformed into smoking craters. Impressive, Cole admitted, but there are still thousands of them. Oh, we're just getting started, Rick replied, reloading his weapon with practiced ease. That was just to thin the herd. The human ships began their second phase of attack. They descended lower, their hulls glowing red-hot from atmospheric friction. Instead of firing individual weapons, entire sections of their ships opened to reveal weapon systems unlike anything in Talon military doctrine. Rotary cannons online, Jake announced. Let's show these bugs what 20,000 rounds per minute looks like. The weapons that emerged from the human ships defied logic. They were massive rotating barrels that spun at incredible speeds, each one firing solid projectiles so rapidly that they created continuous streams of destruction. The sound was like thunder that never ended. Where the streams of bullets touched the ground, everything simply ceased to exist. Vex warriors were shredded instantly, their acidic blood spraying in wide arcs before they could even screech in pain. How is this possible? Tom asked, watching the massacre in stunned silence. Your technology seems so primitive, but the devastation... Primitive doesn't mean ineffective, Rick explained, lighting some kind of burning stick and placing it in his mouth. Your people developed elegant solutions to complex problems. We developed simple solutions and made them incredibly deadly. A group of Vex had managed to reach the human perimeter, their acid attacks beginning to eat through armor plating. The human response was immediate and overwhelming. Soldiers emerged from concealed positions carrying weapons that shot streams of liquid fire. Others wielded devices that launched explosive projectiles with devastating accuracy. One human simply walked into the middle of the Vex group carrying what appeared to be a mining charge, activated it, and disappeared in a massive explosion that took 20 enemies with him. Did he just sacrifice himself? Ben asked in horror. Nah, that's just Davis, Rick replied casually. He loves that trick. His armor will protect him from his own explosives. Crazy bastard will be back on his feet in a few minutes, probably, asking for more charges. The human tactics made no sense by conventional military standards. They used overwhelming firepower where precision would suffice. They chose direct confrontation over tactical maneuvering. They seemed to prefer loud, explosive solutions to every problem. Yet it was working with terrifying effectiveness. The Vex swarm, which had conquered 17 worlds, was being systematically destroyed by what the Talon had assumed were primitive aliens. The humans fought with a combination of advanced weaponry and primal aggression that created chaos on an unprecedented scale. "Commander Jake," Cole called out, "how many ships do you have in your fleet?" "This isn't our fleet," Jake replied, and Cole could hear the grin in his voice. "This is just a scouting patrol. We heard you folks had a bug problem and thought we'd lend a hand." A scouting patrol? Cole stared at the devastation surrounding them. If this was just a small human force, what would their actual military be capable of? The implications were staggering, and suddenly Cole realized that first contact with humanity might change everything about how warfare was conducted in this galaxy. "Sir," Ben whispered, "what have we gotten ourselves into?" The human method as the dust settled from the latest barrage, an eerie silence fell over the battlefield. The Vex swarm, which had seemed endless just hours before, was now reduced to scattered groups fleeing across the barren landscape of Kresh 7. Commander Jake's ship landed near the Talon position with a controlled crash that would have horrified any pilot Cole knew. The human commander emerged from his vessel, a tall, lean figure in scarred armor that looked like it had survived dozens of battles. "Well, that was fun," Jake said, removing his helmet to reveal a face marked by old scars and a wide grin. "Hope we didn't step on your toes too much, Captain." Cole stared at the human commander, then at the transformed battlefield around them. "In 3 hours, you accomplished what our entire fleet couldn't do in 3 weeks. How?" Jake walked over to examine a fallen Vex warrior, poking it with his boot. "Different philosophy, I suppose. Your people fight like scientists. Precise, calculated, elegant. We fight like humans." "What does that mean?" Medic Tom asked, tending to wounded Talon. "Soldiers. It means when we see a problem, we hit it with everything we have until it stops being a problem," Rick answered, approaching their group. True to his prediction, Davis was indeed back on his feet, covered in soot but apparently uninjured. "Your weapons," Scout Ben observed. "They're not energy-based at all. Purely kinetic. Projectile weapons have advantages," Jake explained, sitting on a piece of debris. "No power source to fail, no exotic materials required, and they work in any environment. Plus, there's something satisfying about throwing chunks of metal at your enemies at supersonic speeds." Admiral Rix's hologram appeared as Cole activated his communicator. The Admiral's expression shifted from relief to confusion as he took in the scene. "Captain Cole, what is your status? We detected massive energy signatures from your position. Sir, the human reinforcements have neutralized the Vex threat." "Neutralized? You mean driven them back?" Jake stepped into view of the hologram. "Actually, Admiral, we pretty much wiped them out. There might be a few stragglers running around, but the main force is gone." The Admiral's jaw dropped. "Impossible. The Vex have overrun every defensive position in this sector. How could a small force accomplish what our best military units could not?" "Well," Davis chimed in, lighting another of his smoking sticks, "you all seem to fight wars like it's some kind of chess game. Very polite, very strategic. We fight wars like we're trying to eliminate an infestation. But your technology," the Admiral began, "is perfectly suited for killing things," Jake interrupted. "Look, Admiral, I've reviewed your military doctrines through our cultural exchange data. You develop weapons to disable enemy equipment while minimizing casualties. You use precise energy weapons to surgically strike specific targets. Very civilized." "And humans don't?" Cole asked. "Humans develop weapons to end conflicts as quickly and permanently as possible. We learned a long time ago that the fastest way to stop a war is to make it too costly for your enemy to continue fighting." Rick gestured toward the battlefield. "Those bug things? They're designed to overwhelm through numbers and aggression. Your response was to match their aggression with precision and discipline. Our response was to exceed their aggression with superior violence." "Superior violence," Tom repeated slowly. "That's your military doctrine?" One of them, Jake confirmed. We have others. Overwhelming firepower, total commitment, acceptable losses, and escalation dominance. Escalation dominance, the Admiral asked. It means we're always prepared to make any conflict more destructive than our enemies are willing to tolerate, Davis explained casually. You bring swords, we bring guns. You bring guns, we bring explosives. You bring a fleet, we bring a bigger fleet with nuclear weapons. The casual way the humans discussed such devastating concepts was unsettling to the Talon warriors. Their own military philosophy emphasized honor, precision, and minimizing destruction. Nuclear weapons, Ben whispered. You would actually use planet killers? If the alternative was losing the war, absolutely, Jake replied matter-of-factly, though we prefer not to. It's messy and there's usually nothing left worth conquering afterward. Admiral Rix was silent for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. Commander Jake, would humanity be interested in a mutual defense agreement? It seems our military philosophies could complement each other. Jake looked around at his soldiers who were now casually looting Vex equipment and comparing battle stories with the surviving Talon warriors. Admiral, I think we'd be very interested in that conversation. Fair warning, though. If you ally with humans, your enemies are going to have a very bad time. That, the Admiral said with the first smile Cole had seen from him in weeks, is exactly what we're hoping for. As the human ships prepared for departure, Cole realized that first contact with humanity had just changed the balance of power in the entire galaxy. New Galactic Order 6 months after the Battle of Kresh 7, the galaxy was a very different place. Cole stood on the bridge of the new Joint Command Station orbiting Talon Prime, watching human and Talon ships conduct joint training exercises in the space beyond. The sight still amazed him. Human vessels, bulky, scarred, and bristling with weapons, moved in formation alongside elegant Talon cruisers. Where once there had been two completely different approaches to warfare, now there was something new. A hybrid doctrine that combined Talon precision with human overwhelming force. Status report, Captain, Admiral Rix requested as he entered the command center. The Keth Empire withdrew from the Outer Rim territories yesterday, Cole reported. Their ambassadors sent another message requesting peace negotiations. That makes 4 hostile species that have requested peace talks since the alliance began, the Admiral noted with satisfaction. What about the Vex? No confirmed sightings in 3 months, sir. Intelligence suggests they've retreated to their home systems and are avoiding all contact with inhabited worlds. Commander Jake approached from the human section of the bridge, carrying a data pad and what appeared to be a cup of the bitter liquid humans called coffee. The patrol results are interesting, Jake announced. Word about the alliance has spread faster than we expected. Several species have requested protection agreements and 3 others have asked to join our joint training programs. They want to learn human tactics? Rix asked. More specifically, they want to learn how to make their enemies afraid to fight them in the first place, Jake replied. Turns out when you develop a reputation for excessive violence, most problems solve themselves diplomatically. Through the observation windows, they could see the latest joint exercise in progress. A Talon squadron was practicing human-style assault tactics, while a human squadron learned Talon precision targeting. The results were impressive, surgical strikes delivered with devastating force. Sir, Scout Ben announced from his communication station, we're receiving a priority transmission from the Galactic Council. The massive hologram of Counselor Veth materialized in the center of the bridge. The ancient reptilian's expression was carefully neutral, but Cole could detect underlying concern in his voice. Admiral Rix, Commander Jake, the Council has been monitoring the developments in your sector with great interest. Counselor, Rix replied formally, how may we assist the Council? There are concerns about the rapid militarization occurring as a result of your alliance. Several member species have expressed alarm at the human approach to conflict resolution. Jake stepped forward, his casual posture a stark contrast to the formal military bearing of everyone else. Counselor, with respect, we haven't started any conflicts. We've just been very efficient at ending them. Yes, That is precisely the concern. The human concept of overwhelming force has created ripple effects throughout established military doctrines. What kind of ripple effects? Cole asked. Defense spending among Council member species has increased by an average of 300%. Several civilizations have begun developing what they term human-style weapons. There are reports of traditional peacekeeping forces being reorganized along more aggressive lines. Admiral Rix exchanged glances with Jake. Counselor, are you suggesting we dissolve our alliance? Not at all. The effectiveness of your partnership is undeniable. However, the Council requests that humanity consider joining our organization formally. Your military doctrine requires oversight. Jake laughed, a sound that always seemed to unnerve non-humans. Oversight, Counselor? You can't oversee humans. We don't work that way. What Commander Jake means, Rix interjected diplomatically, is that human military culture values independence and rapid decision-making. Bureaucratic oversight might limit their effectiveness. Their effectiveness is exactly what concerns us, Counselor Veth replied. Commander, your species has eliminated or pacified every hostile force in a 12-sector radius in less than 6 months. This level of military success is unprecedented. And problematic? Jake asked. Potentially destabilizing. The balance of power that has maintained galactic peace for centuries is shifting rapidly. Cole stepped forward. Counselor, perhaps the balance of power needed to shift. The old system allowed predators like the Vex to consume entire worlds while the Council debated response protocols. The human approach prevents those debates altogether, Jake added. When someone threatens our allies, we respond immediately, with enough force to ensure the threat doesn't return. Counselor Veth was quiet for a long moment. Very well, the Council will offer humanity membership, but with the understanding that your military actions will have far-reaching consequences. They already have, Jake replied. Species that used to prey on weaker civilizations are now afraid to leave their home systems. Aggressive expansion has virtually stopped in every sector where we've established a presence. If that's destabilizing, maybe the old stability wasn't worth preserving. As the transmission ended, Cole looked out at the mixed fleet conducting their exercises. The galaxy was indeed changing, but perhaps that change was long overdue. Sir, he said to Admiral Rix, I think we've found the right allies. Indeed, Captain. Indeed we have. The end.